The grand chamber of the Galactic Tribunal fell silent as Overlord Axe stepped forward. His tall frame cast shadows across the crystalline floor, and his three eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Representatives from 200 alien species watched from their elevated seats, waiting to hear the punishment for humanity's latest transgression. "The humans have violated our territorial agreements," Axe announced, his voice echoing through the vast hall. "They crossed into the outer rim without permission. They disturbed 3 mining operations. They ignored our warnings. For these crimes, we must teach them a lesson they will never forget." Sat in the human delegation section, his jaw tight. As the UN Secretary-General, he had spent months trying to explain that the border crossing was a rescue mission, not an invasion. 3 human ships had responded to a distress signal from a failing science station. They had saved 47 lives, but the Empire did not care about such details. "What punishment do you propose?" asked the tribunal's head judge, an ancient being whose species had mediated galactic disputes for 10,000 years. Axe smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The refugees, 6 million of them fleeing their dead world, they need a new home. We will send them all to Earth." Gasps filled the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward in shock. They were known to be completely incompatible with human environments. They breathed methane and nitrogen, not oxygen. They required freezing temperatures that would kill humans in minutes. Their bodies absorbed radiation that would poison human water supplies. "You cannot be serious," said Ambassador Park, rising from her seat beside. "That is a death sentence for both species." "Then the humans should have thought about consequences before breaking our laws," Axe replied smoothly. "Let us see how these aggressive primitives handle a burden they cannot feed, house, or control. 6 million refugees will break their fragile civilization within a year. Perhaps then they will learn respect." The judge looked troubled. "This is highly irregular. They are sentient beings, not tools for punishment. They need a home. Earth has space. What could be more generous than giving them a planet?" Axe spread his arms wide in mock innocence. "If humanity is as compassionate as they claim, they will accept. If they refuse, the galaxy will see their true nature." Felt the trap closing. If Earth rejected the refugees, they would be branded as cruel and selfish. If they accepted, the believed humanity would collapse under the impossible weight. It was designed to be unwinnable. Commander of Earth's First Contact Division leaned close to and whispered urgently, "Sir, we cannot possibly accommodate them. Our atmospheric processors cannot handle methane conversion on that scale. We do not have the cooling systems. The cost alone would bankrupt 20 nations." "I know," whispered back. His mind raced through scenarios, each more impossible than the last. They had planned this carefully. They had studied human limitations and found the perfect pressure point. The judge turned to the human delegation. "Earth has 72 hours to respond to this proposal." Stood slowly, every eye in the chamber fixed on him. He could feel the weight of expectation, the certainty from most species that humanity would refuse. They wanted them to refuse. That was the real goal. "We need no time," said clearly. "Earth accepts the refugees, all 6 million, unconditionally." The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Axe's smile vanished, replaced by a look of genuine surprise. The judge pounded his gavel, calling for order. "You cannot possibly mean this," Axe said. "Do you understand what you are agreeing to? These beings cannot survive in your atmosphere. They require resources you do not have. They will drain your planet dry." "Then we will adapt," replied. "We will build what we need. We will find a way. That is what humans do." Park stood beside him, her face pale but determined. She had not expected this decision, but she understood it. To refuse would be to abandon 6 million innocent lives to the void. Whatever humanity's faults, abandoning refugees went against everything Earth had tried to become after the climate wars and the Great Unification. You are fools, Axe said coldly. In 6 months your cities will be overrun, your economy will collapse, your people will riot in the streets. And when you come begging for relief, when you ask us to take the back, we will remind you of this moment. We will not come begging, said. We will make it work. The judge looked between them, then nodded slowly. It is decided. The refugees will be transported to Earth, beginning in 2 standard weeks. The tribunal will monitor the situation. If there is suffering, if either species is harmed through negligence, Earth will face severe consequences. Understood, said. As the session ended and delegates filed out, many gave the human section pitying looks. A few nodded with respect, but even they seemed to think Earth had made a terrible mistake. Only one delegate, a silent observer from the Union, watched with obvious curiosity. Back in the human delegation's temporary quarters, the full impact hit everyone at once. Pulled up projections on a holographic display. We need habitat zones in regions where methane leaks would not endanger humans. We need massive cooling systems. We need to synthesize their food from scratch. Sir, even with every nation contributing, this will take years to prepare properly. We have 2 weeks before the first ships arrive, said quietly. Then we work miracles in 2 weeks, replied. He activated his communication link to Earth. Within minutes, he was addressing the UN General Assembly, then the leaders of every major nation. His message was simple and direct. The galaxy has given us 6 million refugees to break us. They think we will fail. They think compassion is weakness. We are going to prove them wrong, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Humanity has overcome ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We will overcome this too. The response from Earth came faster than anyone expected. Within 12 hours, volunteers numbered in the millions. Engineers began drafting habitat designs. Scientists started working on atmospheric processors. Abandoned industrial zones were identified for conversion. The Empire monitored all of this with surveillance drones, waiting for the chaos they were certain would come. Axe watched the human preparations and laughed. Let them scramble. Let them build their inadequate structures. Reality will crush their optimism soon enough. But on Earth, something unexpected was already beginning. A unity of purpose not seen in generations. Humanity was not preparing to endure a punishment. They were preparing to welcome 6 million souls who had nowhere else to go. The clock was ticking. Lee had not slept in 4 days. His eyes were red, and his hands shook slightly as he manipulated the holographic blueprint floating before him, but he kept working. Around him, 300 engineers from 27 countries worked at similar stations, all racing against an impossible deadline. The methane containment fields are stable in simulations, reported his assistant, a young woman from Brazil who looked equally exhausted. But we have never tested them at this scale. Then we test them now, said. Begin construction on Site Alpha immediately. If it fails, we will learn what went wrong and fix it for Site Beta. This was the new reality on Earth. Humanity had exactly 14 days to prepare for the first wave of refugees. Traditional planning cycles that took months had been compressed into hours. Committees that usually debated for weeks made decisions in minutes. The word impossible had been temporarily removed from every engineer's vocabulary. Coordinated the global resource effort from a command center in Geneva. Wall-sized screens displayed supply chains, transport routes, and construction progress across 7 continents. Every few minutes, another nation called in with contributions. Canada is donating 15,000 cryogenic cooling units, an aide announced. Japan is sending their entire strategic reserve of rare earth elements. The African Continental Union is contributing 3 million tons of steel. Route the cooling units to Alaska, Siberia, and Greenland, ordered without hesitation. The steel goes to the habitat frame manufacturers, and send thanks to everyone. Make sure they know this matters. It did matter. Everyone could feel it. This was not just about housing refugees. This was about proving something to the galaxy and to themselves. Humanity had spent centuries fighting each other over borders, resources, and ideologies. Now, faced with an external challenge, old enemies were working side by side. In Antarctica, crews worked 20-hour shifts converting abandoned research stations into habitable zones. The freezing temperatures that made life miserable for humans were perfect for them. Massive underground chambers were carved from ice and rock, then sealed with methane-breathable atmospheres. Sora stood in a laboratory in Seoul, looking at a sample of genetic material provided by the tribunal. The alien DNA was radically different from anything found on Earth, but patterns began to emerge as she ran analysis after analysis. Their protein structures are silicon-based, not carbon, she explained to her team. But look here. They still need amino acids, just configured differently. We can synthesize this from modified algae grown in controlled environments. How long to scale up production for 6 million individuals? Asked her lead researcher. Sora did quick calculations. 4 months with conventional methods. 2 weeks if we repurpose every pharmaceutical manufacturing facility on the planet and work non-stop. Then that is what we do, her researcher said simply. Stories like this played out in hundreds of locations. A factory in Germany that made car parts retooled to produce habitat dome segments. A chemical plant in India switched from fertilizer to methane gas production. Shipyards in Korea began assembling atmospheric processors instead of cargo vessels. The surveillance drones recorded all of it, sending data back to Overlord Axe. His advisors assured him that human efforts were inadequate. They are building too quickly, one reported. The structures will fail. Their quality control cannot possibly keep pace with their ambition. Axe agreed. He had seen countless species attempt similar projects. Speed always meant weakness. Corners were always cut. Let them build their fragile monuments to futility. When the refugees arrive and their systems fail, we will document it all. But there were things they did not understand about human engineering. Things that came from surviving in hostile environments for humans built with redundancy. They planned for failure. Every habitat had backup systems. Every life support unit had 3 layers of safety measures. When the first habitat dome was completed in Alaska, personally inspected every seal, every joint, every connection. Test it, he ordered. They pumped in methane, dropped the temperature to minus 40 degrees, and activated the radiation shielding. Then they waited. 24 hours later, all systems remained green. The habitat was stable. Begin mass production, said quietly. We have proven it can be done. Now we do it 149 more times. The work continued. In the Arctic, Governor oversaw construction of what would become New Haven Settlement, designed to house 200,000. She walked through the empty corridors of the first completed residential section, imagining families living here, children playing in the common areas, elders gathering to share stories. Will they be happy here? She wondered aloud. We can only offer them safety and hope, replied her construction chief. Happiness they must build themselves. Volunteers flooded in from every corner of Earth. Millions of people wanted to help. Some brought construction skills or medical training. Others brought only their willingness to work. Refugee welcome committees formed in cities worldwide. Language programs started teaching basic communication, even though no human had yet met a face-to-face. Song was one of the first to master the language. He spent 18 hours a day listening to linguistic databases, practicing the complex clicking and whistling sounds that formed their speech. His throat hurt constantly from making sounds humans were not designed to produce, but he persisted. Why are you doing this? His supervisor asked. Because when they arrive, scared and alone, someone should be able to greet them in their own language, replied. Someone should be able to say welcome. 10 days after its announcement, the first habitat zone went fully operational. News spread across Earth and throughout the galaxy. Human achievement, against all predictions, was ahead of schedule. The Neutral Union sent observers to document the preparations. They walked through the completed habitats, studied the supply chains, interviewed the volunteers. Their leader, a being named Haz, seemed impressed. "Why are you doing this?" Haz asked during an inspection tour. "Your species gains nothing from this burden. They intended to destroy you with generosity." "That is where they misunderstood us," replied. "We do not see this as a burden. We see 6 million people who need help. That makes it simple." "Simple," Haz repeated, as if testing the word. "Yes, someone needs help. We can provide it, so we do." The observer made notes, but said nothing more. However, his report to his government would later describe humanity as the most illogically compassionate species yet encountered. By day 13, 120 habitat zones were complete. 30 more were in final stages. The atmospheric processors were online. Food synthesis facilities were producing compatible nutrition at full capacity. Medical stations staffed by doctors who had learned alien physiology in crash courses stood ready. Earth was ready. On the 14th day, the first colony ship appeared in orbit. It was massive, from decades of flight, carrying 200,000 souls who had been drifting through space for 3 years since their died. Watched the ship approach on monitors from the UN headquarters. Beside him stood Park and dozens of coordinators who had made this possible. "Landing sites are confirmed," reported. "New Haven settlement is ready for the first group. All personnel are in position." "Then let us show the galaxy what humanity truly is," said. The colony ship descended toward Alaska, carrying refugees who expected imprisonment, forced labor, or worse. They knew they were being sent as punishment. They knew humans were considered violent and primitive by galactic standards. What they did not know was that 200,000 humans stood waiting to welcome them home. They emerged from their ship in groups of 50, moving slowly through decontamination airlocks into the methane atmosphere of New Haven settlement. Elder Al led the first group, his crystalline body segments clicking softly as he moved. Through his 3 sensory stalks, he observed the human structures with deep suspicion. This was a trap, it had to be. In all his travels across the galaxy, Al had never encountered a species that welcomed refugees without expecting something in return. They had made it clear that Earth was a punishment destination. These humans would use thee as slave labor, or worse. The habitats were probably prisons designed to look comfortable. But as they walked deeper into the settlement, something felt wrong with his theory. The corridors were wide and well lit. The temperature controls were set precisely to comfort levels. Air quality sensors showed perfect methane-nitrogen ratios. Every sign was written in both human language and carefully translated script. "Welcome to New Haven," a voice said imperfectly accented. Al spun around, his defensive spines beginning to extend. Through the transparent barrier wall, he saw a human man wearing a breathing mask, speaking through a translation device. The human's body language showed no aggression, no fear, only what appeared to be genuine warmth. "My name is Song," the human continued in. "I am here to help with anything you need. Your residential section is ready. Food supplies are stocked. Medical facilities are available. You are safe here." "Safe?" Al clicked back in his own language, testing whether this human truly understood. "We are prisoners sent to a hostile world. Do not pretend otherwise." His face showed confusion through his mask. "Prisoners? No, you are refugees. You are welcome here. This is your home now if you choose to stay." Before Al could respond, a young named Nth broke from the group, his crystalline body too small and underdeveloped. The child had been born on the colony ship, had never known a true home. He moved toward the transparent wall, curious about the strange, soft-bodied creature on the other side. Knelt down to the child's level and waved. Nth waved back, mimicking the gesture. For a moment, two beings from completely different worlds connected through the simple language of curiosity. "Come," said, approaching the group with several other human staff. She spoke through a translator device. "Let us show you your quarters. You must be exhausted from the journey." The followed cautiously. They were led to a residential block designed specifically for their needs. Each family unit had private space, common areas for gathering, and access to carefully synthesized food supplies. Everything was functional, clean, and clearly built with consideration for requirements. "This is a deception," Al insisted to his people. "They will demand payment later, or force us to work in dangerous conditions. This is how powerful species operate." But days passed, and no demands came. Humans asked nothing except basic questions about comfort and needs. When I mentioned that the sleeping platforms were slightly too hard, workers adjusted them overnight. When several refugees said the food synthesis had wrong mineral content, scientists worked with them to correct the formula. The second colony ship arrived 5 days later, carrying 300,000 more. Then the third and the fourth. Within 2 months, all 6 million had been transported to various settlement zones across Earth. The Siberian facilities, the Greenland compounds, the Antarctic settlements, all filled with refugees who could not quite believe they were being treated with basic dignity. Minyu moved between settlements with his recording equipment, documenting stories. He was a social worker who had volunteered to become a historian of this unprecedented event. Every he interviewed told similar tales of their death, the desperate flight through space, and the fear of being dumped on a hostile planet. "What do you think of Earth now?" Minyu asked through a translator, interviewing an elderly named N. "I think," N said slowly, "that we were told lies about humans. They said you were violent primitives, but you build homes for strangers. You learn our language. You adjust your systems to meet our needs. This is not primitive. This is advanced." Not everything was smooth. There were incidents. Some human communities near the settlement zones protested, worried about resources being diverted from their own needs. A small group of extremists even attempted to sabotage a methane processing plant, though they were stopped before causing damage. "Address these concerns directly in public forums." "I understand the fear," she said to a worried town hall meeting near New Haven. "Change is difficult. Resources are limited, but consider what we gain. 6 million beings who now see humanity as worthy of respect. 6 million potential friends, teachers, and partners. We are not losing by helping them. We are investing in a future where Earth stands tall in the galactic community." The biggest challenge came 3 months after arrival, when young Nth went missing from his family unit. The child had wandered into an access tunnel system, curious and exploring, and become lost in the maze of corridors. When his parents reported him missing, panic spread through both human and communities. Immediately organized search teams. Humans and worked together, searching every corridor, every storage room, every possible hiding place. The temperature in the access tunnels was dropping to dangerous levels even for biology. Time was critical. 20 human volunteers went into the tunnels wearing full environmental suits, risking methane poisoning if their seals failed. They searched for 16 hours straight, refusing to rest. Finally, a team led by a security officer named Park found Nth huddled in a corner, cold and scared but alive. The rescue was broadcast across Earth and throughout the galaxy. Images of humans carrying the small child to safety, of his parents embracing him while thanking the search teams, went viral on every network. The union's observers sent detailed reports describing the operation. Even the could not ignore it. In his chambers, Overlord Axe watched the footage with growing anger. "They are manipulating the narrative," he insisted to his advisors. "This is propaganda. Wait until winter comes, until resources run low. Then we will see their true nature. But winter came and humanity's systems held. The settlements remained stable. Food production continued. Power generation was reliable. More importantly, relationships were forming. Engineers began offering suggestions for improving habitat efficiency. Their crystalline biology gave them unique perspectives on structural design that humans had never considered. When they shared these ideas, humans listened and implemented them. A mathematician named started teaching her species advanced calculation methods to human students. Within weeks, a joint study group formed, with both species learning from each other. The mathematical principles would later lead to breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. Artists from both species began collaborating. A human painter named Shin worked with crystal sculptors to create pieces that combined light refraction with traditional painting. The resulting artwork was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "We were sent here as weapons," Al admitted to 6 months after arrival. The elder had slowly released his suspicions, observing human behavior day after day. "The thought we would break you. Instead, you welcomed us. Why?" Considered the question carefully. "Because," he finally said, "we remember what it is like to be refugees. Humans have fled from wars, famines, and disasters throughout our history. We know the fear of having nowhere to go. We know what it means when someone offers help without asking for anything in return. We cannot claim to be good people if we do not help when we have the ability to do so." "Your species is strange," Al said, but his tone was warm, not critical. "Yes," agreed with a smile, "we are very strange." 5 million, the vast majority, applied for permanent Earth citizenship after their first year. They had come as unwilling refugees sent to punish their hosts. They stayed as willing residents who had found something unexpected, a home. And in every settlement, small acts of kindness between species became routine. Humans learning festivals, celebrating human holidays, children of both species playing games that required no common language, only laughter. The galaxy watched all of this with growing interest. What the meant as punishment had become something else entirely. 1 year after the first ship landed on Earth, economist Aura published a report that shocked both human governments and the galactic community. The report was titled "The Refuge Dividend: Economic Analysis of Integration." "The Earth economy has grown by 41%, Aura announced at a press conference in Seoul. Unemployment has dropped to historic lows. We have seen breakthrough advances in 17 different scientific fields. The integration of 6 million refugees has not weakened us. It has strengthened us beyond any projections." The data was undeniable. Cryogenic technology, shared freely with human engineers, had revolutionized multiple industries. Lee's team combined these principles with human manufacturing techniques to create propulsion systems 3 times more efficient than previous designs. Ships that once took months to travel between star systems could now make the journey in weeks. In agricultural zones, joint human research produced remarkable results. Understanding of silicon-based chemistry helped humans solve problems that had stumped Earth scientists for decades. New fertilizer compounds doubled crop yields while using half the resources. Food security, once a concern, became a non-issue. Physicists worked alongside a scientist named Ash in a laboratory in Tokyo. They were attempting to solve a physics problem that had blocked faster-than-light travel development for centuries. Human theoretical frameworks combined with mathematical models opened possibilities neither species had considered alone. "Look at this," Ash said excitedly, her crystalline body segments vibrating with enthusiasm. She manipulated a holographic equation, her multiple limbs adjusting variables simultaneously. "If we apply your quantum field theory to our temporal mathematics, the energy requirements drop by 80%. Stared at the numbers, his mind racing. "That would make FTL travel commercially viable. We could reach distant systems in days instead of months. Yes, Ash clicked in agreement. Together, we solve what neither could solve alone. The breakthrough made headlines across the galaxy. Within weeks, 3 other species contacted Earth requesting scientific partnerships. The Empire, watching from afar, could only observe in silence as their punishment transformed into humanity's greatest advantage. Cultural exchanges flourished in unexpected ways. Artist Shin had become famous throughout the galaxy for her collaborative works with crystal sculptors. Her latest exhibition, displayed simultaneously on Earth and 12 other planets, showed pieces that could only be created through the combination of human artistic vision and light manipulation abilities. Art has no species, explained in an interview. Beauty speaks to all beings who can perceive it. Working with artists has taught me to see light and structure in completely new ways. They have taught me that creativity knows no biological boundaries. The first human vessel, named the Horizon's Promise, launched from Earth orbit 14 months after the refugees arrived. It was a joint project, designed by both species, incorporating the best of both technologies. The ship could travel faster, sustain itself longer, and house both methane-breathing and oxygen-breathing crews in comfort. This ship is a symbol, announced at the launch ceremony. It represents what we can accomplish together. The sent the here to break us. Instead, they gave us partners, friends, and family. This ship will carry that message to the stars. The Horizon's Promise. Human and crew members prepared for a diplomatic mission to 15 neutral systems. Their goal was to establish trade relationships and demonstrate that cooperation between radically different species was not just possible, but beneficial. Grand Scholar, who had become Earth's most eloquent advocate, addressed the Galactic Tribunal from the ship's communication center. Her message was broadcast to every member species. 1 year ago, I arrived on Earth expecting imprisonment or death, said in perfect galactic common. I was a refugee with no home, no future, and no hope. The Empire sent me and 6 million of my people to a planet they said would reject us, that would fail to care for us, that would prove humanity's unworthiness. She paused, letting her words sink in. They were wrong about everything. Humanity did not reject us. They welcomed us. They built homes for us. They learned our language, our customs, our needs. They treated us not as burdens, but as people deserving of dignity. And now, 1 year later, I stand as a citizen of Earth, speaking to you from a ship designed by both our species, traveling among the stars we both call home. Her speech continued for 20 minutes, detailing the accomplishments, the breakthroughs, and the genuine friendships that had formed. She ended with a direct challenge to the tribunal. The claimed humans were violent primitives, yet they are the ones who turned refugees into weapons. Humanity showed us a different path. They proved that compassion is not weakness. They proved that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. I ask this tribunal, who are the primitives? Those who help without asking for reward, or those who use the suffering of others as tools for punishment? The response was immediate. 43 species requested formal meetings with Earth representatives. The Union formally nominated Earth for membership in the galactic community, a proposal they had rejected only 2 years prior. Even species that had previously dismissed humanity began reconsidering their positions. But not everyone celebrated. In the capital, Overlord Axe met with his council. His 3 eyes burned with humiliation and rage. This cannot stand, he hissed. Earth was supposed to fail. They were supposed to collapse under the weight. Instead, they thrive. They embarrass us before the entire galaxy. The humans have broken no laws, one advisor said carefully. They simply succeeded where we expected failure. Then we change the situation, Axe decided. Ancient galactic law, Article 7. Any species transported as refugees can be reclaimed by their originating sector authority within 5 years if proper care cannot be demonstrated. But proper care has been demonstrated. Another advisor protested. "They are thriving." "That is for us to determine," Axe said coldly. "We will invoke Article 7. We will demand the return of the, and if Earth refuses, we will take them by force. Let us see how brave humanity is when facing our warships." Plans were made in secret. Military assets began moving toward Earth's sector. Intelligence reports started circulating that questioned Earth's treatment of refugees, despite all evidence to the contrary. Axe prepared his case for the tribunal, ready to argue that they were being exploited, that their success was manufactured propaganda. But Earth was not blind to these movements. Intelligence Division detected the fleet preparing for departure. Reports came in from allied species warning of the coming confrontation. "They will demand the back," reported to and the UN Security Council. "They will claim we have violated care standards, despite all evidence showing otherwise. And if we refuse, they will attempt to take them by force." "Can we defend against a battle fleet?" asked one council member. "No," admitted. "Not alone. Their military is 10 times our size." "Then we must prepare to give them up," another member said sadly. "We cannot risk war." "No," said firmly. "We will not abandon them. They came here as refugees. They stayed as citizens. They are part of Earth now. We stand with them whatever comes." Park began urgent diplomatic outreach. Messages went to every species that had expressed support for Earth. The message was simple and direct. "Earth needs allies. They are coming to reclaim the by force. We ask for your help." The responses came slowly at first, then faster. Species that had admired Earth's compassion now had to decide if they would back their words with action. It was one thing to praise humanity's treatment of refugees. It was another thing entirely to stand against the Empire's military might. As the fleet approached, Earth prepared for the confrontation that would determine whether compassion could survive against power. The battle fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 50 warships arranged themselves in an intimidating formation, their weapons powered but not yet targeting. On the bridge of the command vessel, Overlord Axe watched Earth's moon grow larger on the "Scan for defensive positions," he ordered. "Sir, we are detecting multiple fleet signatures," the scanner officer reported. "Not human, they are, surrounding Earth." Axe leaned forward. "What species?" The officer's voice trembled slightly. "Union vessels, 20 ships. Confederation, 15 ships. The collective, 10 ships. Sir, we are counting vessels from 43 different species. They have formed a defensive perimeter around Earth." The bridge fell silent. 43 species, hundreds of ships, all positioned between the fleet and Earth. It was unprecedented. The galaxy's neutral species, those who typically avoided conflicts, had chosen sides. "This is impossible," Axe whispered. "They would not risk war for humans." "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced, "from the flagship. Admiral has appeared on the screen, the same observer who had documented Earth's refugee preparations. Overlord Axe, I suggest you hold your position." "You have no authority here," Axe snapped. "We are invoking Article 7 of Galactic Law. The refugees are under our jurisdiction." "They are citizens of Earth," has replied calmly. "They have chosen to remain. You have no claim." "They were sent there as punishment. The assignment was temporary." "No," a new voice interrupted. Grand Scholar appeared on a split screen beside Haz. She spoke from the Horizon's Promise, which had returned to Earth orbit when the crisis began. "We were sent as refugees. We have applied for and received citizenship. We are human, both, and we choose to stay." Behind her, the entire crew of the Horizon's Promise stood in solidarity. On Earth's surface, in every settlement, 6 million made their choice clear. They would not leave. They would not be reclaimed like property. Al, the elder who had once suspected human intentions, addressed the fleet directly through an open broadcast. "I came here expecting chains. I found freedom. I expected exploitation. I found partnership. I expected to be a weapon against humanity. Instead, humanity made me whole. We will not return to your custody. We are home. On Earth, watched the confrontation unfold from the UN Command Center. Around him, representatives from dozens of nations stood ready, coordinated with the Allied fleet commanders. Park maintained diplomatic channels with every species involved. The fleet is powering weapons, reported tensely. All defensive systems to maximum, ordered. Then, opening a channel to Axe directly, he spoke clearly. Overlord, you sent the here to destroy us. You failed. You expected us to reject them. We welcomed them. You thought we would collapse. We prospered. Everything you tried to do to harm us made us stronger. Now you want to take them back because your plan did not work. I will tell you what happens next. His voice carried across every communication channel, broadcasting to Earth, to the surrounding fleets, to the Galactic Tribunal, to every listening species across known space. You can fire your weapons. You can try to take them by force, but you will not be fighting just Earth. You will be fighting 43 species who believe compassion matters more than power. You will be fighting every being who watched us turn your punishment into partnership. You will be fighting the idea that kindness is weakness because we have proven it is strength. He paused, letting his words sink in. Or you can back down. You can accept that you were wrong about humanity, wrong about and wrong about what it means to be civilized. The choice is yours. 3 days passed. The fleets faced each other in tense standoff. The galaxy held its breath. Warships could destroy Earth, but they would face overwhelming retaliation from the allied species. Axe had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, he faced a choice between humiliation and catastrophic war. On the third day, Grand Scholar requested to address the Galactic Tribunal directly. The tribunal, recognizing the historical importance of the moment, agreed to an emergency session. Spoke not with anger but with simple truth. Members of the tribunal, you have watched our story unfold. You saw us sent to Earth as punishment. You saw humanity's response. You saw us thrive. You saw genuine partnership form between species that should have been incompatible. Now you see the Empire trying to reclaim us, not because we are suffering, but because we are succeeding. She gestured to images showing human settlements, collaborative research projects, families of both species living side by side. This is what they call exploitation. This is what they claim requires correction. I ask you, honored tribunal, who is lying? The evidence before your eyes or the species that tried to weaponize our suffering? The tribunal deliberated for 6 hours. Finally, the head judge made an announcement heard across the galaxy. The tribunal finds no evidence of mistreatment. The integration into Earth society has been exemplary by all measurable standards. Article 7 does not apply when refugees have been granted full citizenship and choose to remain. The Empire's claim is, they are citizens of Earth, with all rights and protections that status provides. Axe's face twisted with rage on every, but he was not foolish enough to start a war he could not win. Slowly, with visible reluctance, he gave the order to withdraw. The fleet turned and departed, leaving Earth's solar system under the watchful eyes of their former subjects and the 43 species who had stood with humanity. Cheers erupted across Earth. In New Haven settlement, humans and celebrated together. In the UN headquarters, allowed himself a moment of relief. In orbit, the crews of the Allied fleet exchanged congratulations. Why did you come? Park asked Admiral Has after the crisis passed. Your species is neutral. You risk nothing, yet you risked everything for us. We came because you showed us something we had forgotten, Has replied. For 10,000 years, the Union has observed the galaxy. We have seen countless species rise and fall. Most fall because they forget that civilization is built on more than military might or economic power. It is built on the choice to help others even when it is difficult. Earth reminded us of that truth. We could not let them punish you for being what we should all strive to be. In the following months, everything changed. Earth received formal membership in the galactic community, proposed by 30 species simultaneously. The Earth model of refugee integration became studied by 200 civilizations. Trade agreements flooded in from species that wanted to partner with a civilization that valued cooperation over domination. The Horizons Promise began regular diplomatic missions, carrying crews of humans into distant systems. Everywhere they went, they shared their story. Some species were inspired, some were skeptical, but none could deny the evidence of what had been achieved. 5,000 human volunteers joined efforts to terraform a distant planet, creating a new where both species could live together. The project would take decades, but that did not matter. They had time, and they had each other. Song, who had been the first to greet thee in their own language, became Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Tribunal. His first speech there addressed the question that had defined the past 2 years. Many species ask why humanity accepted the when it seemed impossible. The answer is simple. We are a young species. We have made countless mistakes. We have fought wars, destroyed ecosystems, and nearly eliminated ourselves through short-sighted greed. We know what it is like to fail, to fall, to need help desperately. So when others needed help, we remembered our own struggles. We gave what we once needed and sometimes did not receive. That is all. 20 years later, Nth, the child who had once been lost and rescued by humans, graduated from Earth's first university. He studied, hopping to build bridges between species as others had built bridges for him. At his graduation, he gave a speech remembered throughout the galaxy. I was born on a refugee ship fleeing a dying world. I was sent to Earth as a weapon meant to destroy humanity. Instead, I was given a home, a family, and a future. The thought sending refugees would be punishment. They did not understand that every refugee carries potential. Every displaced person holds possibilities. Humanity understood this. They saw not burdens but people, not problems but opportunities. That vision changed 6 million lives. It changed Earth. And eventually, it changed the galaxy. In his retirement, often visited the settlements, walking through communities where children of both species played together, where elders of different worlds shared stories, where the phrase, sent as punishment, received as blessing, had become a proverb. He watched young beings who had never known a time when humans and were separate, who grew up learning both languages, who saw diversity as normal rather than exceptional. They were preparing to explore the stars together, carrying forward a message their elders had learned through trial and necessity. They thought breaking bread with strangers would break us, reflected Tu, who accompanied him on these walks. Instead, it made us whole. Above them, ships of mixed crews departed for distant systems. Below them, settlements hummed with life from two species who should have been enemies but chose to be family. Around them, the galaxy slowly learned that compassion was not weakness, that accepting refugees was not surrender, and that humanity's greatest strength was their refusal to abandon those in need. The Empire continued its slow decline, isolated by their cruelty while Earth and its allies represented a new galactic paradigm. The punishment intended to destroy humanity had instead revealed what they truly were. A species that would build a home for 6 million strangers and call them neighbors. And in that choice, everything changed.